She liked to say the word dildo and said that a lot. But the fact is, George M. Johnson, this is a book about George M. Johnson. Some of these books are autobiographical, some of them are not. Some of the key books that have been banned, Lori Halls Anderson's Speak, Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky.
My kids read them.
They have similar themes in them. Some of them are sexual, some of them are not, but they are experiential. They're real books. And kids see themselves in these books. It's disingenuous to call it all about sex. Kids know all about sex. Kids have always known all about sex.
If you're confused right now about what it is you're actually hearing, yes, those are adults. Those are paid propagandists telling every parent that was intellectually polluted enough to actually turn on their show, turn on their network, MSNBC. They're telling them that their elementary age children don't even need them anymore. They know all about sex. And that as long as graphic sexual content is at least partially autobiographical and someone's real, lived, true experience, it doesn't matter if it's perverted, it doesn't matter if it's appropriate or inappropriate, as long as it's real, then your child should not be stopped from reading it. And not only should not be stopped, not only should they be allowed to read it, but you should not even have a say. You shouldn't even be aware. And this is what they believe. And I'm going to show you what they were actually responding to and what they're actually trying to clean up here.
Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com, and it's essentially a Cliff Notes for books. Yeah. So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has.
Everyone should go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like
you can find sure.
Or anal. Or dildo.
You can find all sorts of keywords.
Of words. But like
wait, hold on, wait. Let me finish my question.
Okay,
then
great,
you can answer.
sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah. I got you. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Let's do a back room.
Excuse me.
Let's put a curtain up in the library
First of
like
all,
they used
hold
to
on.
do
One moment.
in the video stores. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
The books that Moms for Liberty. With pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
Tapes.
Yeah, so Joy Reid somehow, after all of the prepping that went into this interview, and I know this is a really, really, really bad show, but there has to be some level of prep. They're bad, but they're professional. I mean, they're professionally bad. So after all that prep, and kudos, man, to the woman from Moms for Liberty for going on that show, for taking that message into that lion's den and straight to the victims of their propaganda themselves. Kudos to her. That is a big, big play. And I'm sure that a few eyes had to be opened, right? Even on MSNBC viewers. I don't see how you can watch this stuff and not at least start to question some things. But anyway, after all that, Joy Reid basically says, lady, you haven't even read this book. You just searched for keywords. And she, to everyone's credit, they actually picked one of the more graphic books for some reason. And the lady interviewing her basically says, yes, you know what? You have a terrific idea. Everyone should get online and see the content that is in this book that may very well be in their kid's school. And the propagandist basically says, you know, so what that it has graphic sex acts in it? You haven't even taken the time to understand the context of those graphic sex acts, as if that is somehow important. When you're talking about what a kid has access to, what a kid can and will read, somehow context for inappropriate material is now important. And guys, this is what debating an insane leftist on their insane beliefs actually looks like. I mean, it's just incredible. I don't know how anyone really does it and maintains their sanity, but really, they probably don't. Because as I watch this, you know, it is impossible for me to see how we can possibly ever see eye to eye with the average propagandized liberal. Guys, if we can't agree that kids should not have access to books about sex in their school without any knowledge or any participation from their parents. Guys, if we can't agree on that, I don't understand what we could possibly ever agree on. I don't think we can. I don't think we can ever agree on anything if you can't start there. But you're going to see this in this debate, if you can even call it a debate. Agreement was never the point. That was never anybody's interest. There was never any point in this. And if you guys saw a video I did with Joy Reid and Christopher Rufo a few months ago, same kind of thing, you know, because when someone who comes on and endangers the doctrine and the propaganda that gets pushed on MSNBC on a daily basis, when that person comes on, they don't have a chance, because Joy Reid knows, she's at least smart enough to know that if it ever comes down to quality of ideas, the viewers will never, ever, ever survive it. Her viewers cannot handle it. They have been so intellectually polluted by her and her network that they can't handle this kind of truth. So here's where we're at. You know, the left has convinced their viewers, their mushy brain victims, their low information single issue voters, that removing sexually explicit books from schools is somehow the same as an evil, authoritarian book burning ban. When in reality, if anyone on the planet, if you were to try and give one of those books to some stranger's kid, someone is going to call the cops, whether they're liberal parents or not. The cops are getting called. So just to set the baseline, now this is just my belief, not all books in the world were created for or are appropriate for kids, especially other people's kids. It's that simple. And if you don't agree with that, I would love to hear from you in the chat and let me know where you think I'm wrong. But anyway, let's get into this.
LGBTQ parents and parents of LGBTQ kids, do they have parental rights?
Every parent, Joy. Every parent means every parent has the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
And liberal parents? Do liberal parents have those rights as well?
All parents, sure.
So let me point you to some statistics, because the question becomes then who gets to decide what all kids get to read. The Washington Post took a look at about 1,000 plus book challenges that were filed, and they found that they were filed nationwide by just 11 people. Each of these people brought 10 or more challenges against books in their school district. Together, these serial filers constituted 6% of all book challengers, but they were responsible for 60% of filings. In Florida, Tampa Bay Times, they found that of roughly 1,100 complaints recorded in Florida since July 2022, we're talking about more than 700 just from two counties, Escambia in the Western Panhandle and Clay County. Together, those are less than 3% of the public school enrollment, 600 of those complaints, 2 people. Why should 13 people get to decide what books tens of thousands of children get to read?
Well, I'm thinking it's probably because those 13 people saw what some of the content was in the books. I mean, explicit, graphic, sexual content. And I'm happy to talk about some of that content if you'd like to.
Well, this is the question again. The books that are being banned, I want to give you just
some... No books are being banned.
No, hold on a second.
Well, no, Joy, but I want to be clear. No one's banning books. Write the book, print the book, publish the book, put the book in the public library, sell the book, right? We're talking about a public school library. Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. I did a FOIA records request, and I wanted to see what kinds of internet sites are banned in schools, if we're going to talk about banning, right? And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
So this is actually a pretty good point. If we can all agree that kids should not have access to smutty websites or inappropriate content on the internet in their schools or at home or anywhere, then really, how are books any different? I mean, I think if you look at it objectively, the truth is they aren't any different. And you know that they're not different because no one on the left has been intellectually honest enough to even have that conversation. And, you'd think, you really would think that this part of the argument would send up some sort of red flags for the average mushy brain, but for some reason it just doesn't. These people, they dig into these positions and these ideas that these propagandists like Joy Reid have just implanted in their brains. And it's amazing. I mean, the real harm these people are doing to their viewers and their viewers' kids is amazing. I mean, it should be studied forever. I mean, the liberal brain really should be studied forever. But before we continue, guys, if you like this content, make sure to like and comment before it's over. If you love the content, please be a part of our growth and make sure to subscribe and share the channel. This is going to be a really, really important year for conservative voices, and your support really does matter, and it really does go a long way.
Let me give you an example of some of the books that have been removed from shelves as a result of the activities of organizations like Moms for Liberty.
We're not going to talk like Moms for Liberty. We're going to talk specifically Moms for Liberty.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to have this conversation with you, Joy.
Absolutely.
But we're going to be specific about the actions of Moms for Liberty chapters.
Oh, 100%.
Because I can't be possibly responsible for every single parent in America.
But your organization is the lead. You're the leading organization that's doing this. You have chapters all over the country, and other organizations are following your lead. And PEN America has listed, they have posted the list of books that have been removed from shelves as a result of these activities. Let me just read you a couple of them. Anne Frank's A Diary of a Young Girl. Mouse, which is a book about the Holocaust, a graphic novel. Genderqueer, a memoir. All Boys Aren't Blue. Beloved, Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Ruby Bridges Goes to School. Slaughterhouse-Five, The Color Purple, Forever by Judy Blume. I could go on. These are books that are not only popular, in some cases are classics. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Let me give you an example.
Well, I'd like to answer your question.
Please do, yeah.
Yeah, so you just mentioned a list of books. And so Moms for Liberty doesn't have like a national book list. There was never a list of books that we put out and said, parents, be concerned about these books, right? We didn't do it because we want our parents to be effective advocates. So when moms are going into the libraries in the schools, when they're seeing what their children have access to, when they go to speak to the superintendent or the principal, they have accurate information, right? They're
and where
effective
are they getting
advocates.
their information from?
You can just go online to a catalog in your children's library, and you can see what
without
books are
reading
available.
the books. What is book? What is? One moment. What is booklooks.com?
I'm aware of a website called booklooks.com where parents can go and see some of the books that other parents are concerned about.
Booklooks.com has been used in Florida extensively in counties like, I used to live in Broward County. I lived there for 14 years.
Okay.
In counties like Broward, counties like Clay, counties like Escambia, Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com. And it's essentially a Cliff Notes for books.
Yeah.
So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has pushed
Everyone should go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like rape.
You can find sure.
Or anal rape or dildo.
You can find all sorts
those types
of keywords.
Of words. But like
wait, hold on. Wait. Let me finish my question.
Okay,
then
great,
you can answer.
sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah, I got the question.
And so what you find is the keywords that you find, the N-word, anything, words like you just used, then you'll get out of context passages from the book. And then based on that, Moms for Liberty members are going to places like Broward County School Board meetings, reading out of context passages from these books, and then demanding that the school board remove them.
So what's
that
the
is the way.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for you.
do.
In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school?
All right. That is an absolute mic drop. I mean, there is no explaining to a still reasonable person that context would ever matter when you're talking about sex toys and other people's kids. I mean, it is insane to listen to Joy Reid. I don't know how anyone can actually say something so ridiculous without actually catching themselves and stopping themselves and immediately correcting. But on top of her, I mean, people are actually tuning in and they're watching this, and they watch every day. And how do they not think to themselves, like, what the hell is this lady talking about? I mean, she's basically talking about the most inappropriate possible concept that you could expose other people's kids to. And she's taken the position that context is important. And I don't understand how that argument can make sense to anybody. And if you're watching this right now and that argument does make sense to you, please help it make sense to me.
I mean, that's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't.
specific names.
Joy.
Here's my
We're
question.
talking about
Here's my
strap.
question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your question.
Great. I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a.
And I think this is where it all completely falls apart. This is where it's lost for Joy Reid. She's throwing it all out there. Like, well, this is my show, and I'm going to ask the questions right here. And, oh, you're such an expert, huh? Well, what's the main character's name then? What's the main character's name, expert? As if that somehow matters. As if any parent who doesn't remember the character's name is some sort of book-banning bigot. And they can't dare have an opinion about whether or not there is a context that makes it appropriate to expose someone else's kid to a story about strap-on dildos and assault. I mean, she's serious, man. I mean, that lady, she believes those things that at least she does a really good job of pretending that she believes it's insanity. And the problem is, it is insanity, and it goes completely unnoticed by her audience because they are either just as crazy, which is highly likely, or they cannot stop staring at the cultural appropriation that she calls a haircut.
Conversation, okay?
Okay, great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that.
Guys, help me on the chat, please. What sort of expertise do you think is required to attain? Like, what do you need? Do you need some kind of special degree? What do you need to learn before you can comfortably give your opinion on whether or not books about sex toys and assault are appropriate for public schools?
Dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
This is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right or a Moms for Liberty activist's right to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right?
Guys, how many liberals do you think are sitting at home hearing Joy claim that all liberal parents are accepting of this insanity? Like, literally, like, liberal parents are just a bunch of complete lunatics that will subject their kids to literally anything and everything some Republican somewhere objects to. Because that's basically what this is about. I mean, I don't think those people exist like she believes. And here's what I think the average liberal is like on this subject. At least I hope, man. I hope and pray that this is what they're like. I think the high majority of these people that would virtue signal that this stuff is okay, that this stuff is acceptable, probably do not have children. And because they don't have children, they never have really given it a real objective thought past what they're told to believe. I think that's highly likely. I think also likely they do have kids and would not, under any circumstances, want their actual kids exposed to this nonsense. Sort of like a for thee but not for me sort of thing. And here's the thing, to answer Joy's question, anyone who truly desires that their kid read this book and be potentially scarred for life, guys, just get your ass on Amazon, practice your own First Amendment privileges, do the responsible thing, and talk to your kids about it. Show your kids it. But the key phrase here is your kids. Your kids. And I promise you, not one of these lunatics that would actually get on Amazon and buy a copy of this book for their kids, not one of them would send a copy or think it's okay to send a copy to the neighbor kids also. Because they know, even the people that Joy's talking about know that what's okay for your kids does not mean that it's okay for all kids.
For their child to just have access to this book, why is it your right to say they can't?
So again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask it one more time. What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that if a child feels seen by this story. What I'm saying, Joy,
you're now making assumptions about it.
No, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
shelf. Now you're literally creating a story
behind
a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form.
Yeah, you guys see that. Joy wants to talk about, sadly, a child that feels seen by this story, which I hope that there aren't any. There are in the world, and it's a shame that there are, but I hope that there aren't many. And Tiffany points out that any child that truly feels seen by this story, then we got a real problem. And we're gonna have to do a whole hell of a lot better than some book in the library that they may or may not stumble across. And Joy doesn't like that. they never, ever, ever like having their own half-baked logic turned back around on them. It is easy to do. And Joyce says, you're just making up a scenario, which obviously anyone who's paying attention realizes she just did the same thing. She made up this scenario of this child out there somewhere that is seen by this story. This is it's cut-rate bad propaganda theater.
Out their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue,
right,
that they can make that choice? Because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their rights.
We want children to read books
Why
about
not just
African-American
opt
history,
out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
Let's do
I'm so sorry.
Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library
First of all,
like they used
hold
to
on.
do
One moment,
in the video stores. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for
and they
Liberty.
put those
the books that Moms for Liberty.
With pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
America used to understand that there's something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again.
On movies.
Again. Ruby Bridges.
Yeah, so I mean, there you have it. You guys see that. You can make your own judgments, and I have a feeling we're going to agree more than we disagree. I'm very, very sorry to put you through as much of that as I did, but you must be at your limit because that's about as much as I can take. Guys, this truly is depressing stuff. Look where we're at. This is where we're at in 2024 in the United States. I mean, it is sad. It's depressing and it's pretty frightening, but leave me a comment if you think I'm wrong, but we're at a place in time where liberals are actually either advocating for pornography in schools, and they're serious about it, they mean it, they believe in it, or I think even more likely, that they will just oppose and demagogue anything and everything, quote unquote, conservatives are against. Even if that means filling school libraries with material that any reasonable person on the planet can agree is not appropriate for a child. And, that's where we're really at. The world is a dangerous and treacherous place, man. We got enemies of the United States coming out of every angle of the world, every corner of the world, to supplant the United States as the world's dominant superpower. And while that's all happening, we cannot even freaking agree that kids should not have unfettered access to books about sex. This is where we are, man. This is where we are, and it's freaking depressing, But anyway, that's just my take, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one. But before that, guys, keep the faith.